Next, I will introduce the operating mode of probe mode. I will start with probe mode 1. First, we enter the parameter settings. Probe mode 1 only uses the mode 1 and the minimum concentration settings in mode 2. This minimum concentration is designed to detect water flow. We usually set it to 50. When the probe concentration exceeds 50, the system determines that there is water and the detergent pump will start to operate. Then we go to parameter 1. The left column is the operating parameters for the detergent pump, and the right column is for the rinse aid pump. First are speeds 1 and 2, which are the percentage speeds for the detergent and rinse aid pumps, respectively. If we set it to 0, the pump will not operate. Then below that is the concentration. This concentration is our target concentration. After setting a value, if the concentration detected by the probe is below this value, Pump 1 will continue to operate until it exceeds this value. We click to set. When the cursor blinks, it displays the real-time concentration detected by the probe. Clicking set again will set the target to the current real-time concentration. Then, how do we manually adjust this concentration? It is done through the two small dots in the lower right corner. The left dot adjusts by tens, and the right dot adjusts by ones. Below the concentration is this plus-minus number, which is actually the upper and lower limits of the target concentration. If the current real-time concentration is below its lower bound, for example, if I set a concentration of 60 with an upper and lower limit of plus or plus 10, when the detected concentration falls below the lower limit of 50, it will continue to operate until it exceeds the upper limit of 70 before stopping. Then there is the alarm time below. If pump 1 continues to operate abnormally without stopping, reaching the set alarm time, for example, we set it to 50 seconds, the dispenser will stop and alarm. Let's run it and see. Back to the main interface, you can see that pump 1 has already started working. It does not need to receive any signal. If the probe concentration is below the set concentration's lower bound, pump 1 will continue to work. When the current concentration is above the set concentration's upper bound, it will stop working. That is, above 60, it will stop working. And now, since our concentration has not reached 60 and has been working continuously for 50 seconds, the dispenser stops and alarms. Then, when we click Set to return, the alarm stops. Next, I will explain the operation mode of Pump 2. The operation mode of Pump 2 is divided into three cases. The first case is when both delay 2 and work 2 have values. For example, a delay of 3 seconds and work of 5 seconds. Let's run it and see. First, we set the minimum concentration to 50 so that the detergent pump will not start operating. Then we return to the main interface. Pump 2 only starts to work after receiving the rinse signal. I now give a rinse signal. You can see it immediately runs for our set time of 5 seconds, then waits for our set delay time of 3 seconds, and runs again for 5 seconds in an infinite loop until our rinse signal is disconnected. It will then immediately stop working. This is the first case. Then we return to the parameter setting interface. Our second case is where the delay is 0 and work has a value, for example, 5 seconds. Let's run it again and see. I output a rinse signal. You can see pump 2 also works directly, but stops after running for 5 seconds and then will not work again. Let's try it again. Watch as I disconnect the rinse signal, it will still continue to work, which is different from the first case. After disconnection, pump 2 continues running until 5 seconds are up. This is the second case. We return to the parameter setting interface again. The third case is where the work time is 0 and the delay time has a value. For example, I set a delay of 3 seconds. Let's run it and see. You can see after receiving the rinse signal, our pump 2 starts working after waiting 3 seconds and will continue to work until the rinse signal is disconnected. This is the third case. All right, that concludes the explanation of probe mode 1. Next is the explanation of probe mode 2. We first go to the probe setting interface. The only difference between probe mode 1 and probe mode 2 is probe mode 2 adds the mode 2 feature here on the basis of probe mode 1. The minimum concentration here is universal. First is startup work, meaning each time the machine starts up, the detergent pump will work for the set seconds. We set it here for 3 seconds. Then there's the signal selection below. This signal selection means we can choose whether to receive a detergent D signal or a rinse R signal. Our detergent pump, which is the pump on the left, starts working according to the concentration in parameter 1 after receiving the R signal. Simultaneously, no matter which signal we choose, our rinse aid pump will work according to the time set in parameter 1 after receiving the R signal. That is, the difference between probe mode 1 and probe mode 2 is all right, let's run it and see. You can see, after starting up, the detergent pump begins to work. It stops after working for 3 seconds, and we have set the signal to R signal. Before receiving the R signal, neither of our 2 pumps will work. I now input an R signal. You can see after receiving the signal, since the concentration does not reach the set target concentration, pump 1 immediately starts working, and pump 2 also starts working according to the set time, operating with the same logic as probe mode 1. And after the R signal is disconnected, both pump 1 and pump 2 immediately stop working. This is how probe mode 2 works. All right, that concludes the explanation of the probe modes. Thank you for watching. Hello everyone. I will introduce to you next the operation mode of time mode. First, press and hold the set button for 3 seconds to enter the password interface. After entering the correct password, click Return to enter the setup interface. Let me first introduce the parameter settings of time mode. First, speed 1 and speed 2 are the percentage settings for the detergent pump and rinse aid pump respectively. And when the value is 0, the pump does not work. Then, our time mode is divided into receiving D signal and receiving R signal. First, after receiving the D signal, the detergent pump will work according to the set initial delay and initial duration. Initial duration and initial delay refer to the first working time and the first delay time. There are 2 possible operating scenarios in total. Let me demonstrate the first scenario for you. In the first scenario, both initial delay and initial duration have values. For example, the initial delay is 3 seconds and the initial duration is 5 seconds. Let's run it and see how it works. Now I send a D signal to the dispenser. You can see it will wait for the set initial delay time before it starts to run for the set initial duration. And we can see this setting mode only operates once and then ends. Let's try it again. Waiting 3 seconds before starting to run, and let's see what happens if the signal is disconnected during operation. You can see the detergent pump continues to run normally. This is the first scenario, suitable for lift door dishwashers. Let's try the second scenario. In the second scenario, our initial delay is 0, and our initial duration has a value such as I set it to 5 seconds. Let's run it and see. After receiving the D signal, the pump immediately starts running for the set time, which is 5 seconds. It stops after the operation ends. Let's run it again and see. During the operation, I disconnect the D signal. You can see the pump continues to run until the time ends, unaffected by the signal disconnection. This is the second scenario, suitable for tunnel dishwashers. There is also a scenario where the initial duration is 0. If the initial duration is 0, no matter how many seconds you set the initial delay, it will not work after receiving the signal. So let's run it and see. Now I give a detergent signal, and we can see the pump does not work. Okay, this is the working method controlled by the D signal, which are the initial delay and initial duration. Next, I will explain the working method controlled by the R signal. Of the detergent pump, and delay 2 and work 2 are parameters of the rinse aid pump. After receiving the R signal, the logic of the detergent pump and the rinse aid pump is the same, so the logic I am explaining applies to both pumps. After receiving the R signal, the logic of the detergent pump is divided into 4 scenarios. The first scenario, Both delay and work one have values. For example, I set the delay to 3 seconds and work 1 to 5 seconds. At the same time, both delay 2 and work 2 are 0, which is also the second scenario. Let's run it and see. I send an R signal. You can see both the detergent pump and the rinse aid pump run simultaneously. And the detergent pump immediately works for 5 seconds, waits 3 seconds, and then continues to work. As we set, work 1 for 5 seconds, delay for 3 seconds, running in an infinite loop. And when I disconnect the R signal, both the detergent pump and the rinse aid pump immediately stop. At the same time, you can see the rinse aid pump is always working, while we set both work and delay to 0 for the rinse aid pump. That means when both delay and work are set to 0, upon receiving the R signal, it will continue to work until the R signal is disconnected. Okay, this is the first and second scenario. Now let me explain the third scenario. The third scenario is where the delay is 0 and work has a value. For example, I set the work to 5 seconds. Let's try running it. When I send the R signal, the detergent pump immediately starts working. It works for 5 seconds and then immediately stops, and it will not continue to work. Let's try running it again. When I disconnect the signal during the operation, the detergent pump continues to run until it reaches the set duration, while the rinse aid pump has already stopped. This is its third scenario. Let's go back to the parameter setting interface. Our fourth scenario is where our delay has a value like 3 seconds and our work is 0 seconds. Now let me run it and see. When the dispenser receives the ER signal, the detergent pump waits for 3 seconds and then it continues to run until the R signal is disconnected. Run it again, wait for 3 seconds, keep running until the signal is disconnected. Okay. This is the logic of our time mode. Thank you for watching. Hello everyone. Next I will explain the data functions of the dispenser. If you need to use the statistics function, set the time first. Press the set key at the number you want to change. After the cursor blinks, use the up and down keys to adjust the value. Press the set key again to complete the modification. The second necessary step is to measure the pump's flow rate. We need to prepare a measuring cup in advance. First, go to the flow option in the settings interface. Click Set to enter the interface. The time displayed is the running time of the pump during the flow measurement. The longer this time, the higher the accuracy of the measurement. Then this timer shows the countdown displayed when starting the measurement. This milliliters per second and second per milliliter on the right are the data automatically calculated after the measurement. Here, P1 indicates which pump you are measuring. P1 is the detergent pump. P2 is the rinse aid pump. Now, let me demonstrate the measurement process. First, set the time, confirm by pressing the set key. Before measuring, place the suction tube into the measuring cup and make sure to expel the air from the tube. Press the set key to start the pump. When the tube is filled with liquid and all the air is expelled, you can end it. Press the set key again to do so. After expelling the air, we can start measuring the pump flow rate. We go to the Start option, press the set key to start measuring. You can see here on the right it is counting down. After the countdown ends, the measurement will stop. Then we enter the measured value into the actual output. For example, my actual output is 301 milliliters. Adjust and confirm by pressing the set key. Remember, no matter how large the value entered, always set the third place last. Go to the third position, enter the value, and press confirm to finish. You can see the consumption rate has been automatically calculated above. After measuring the detergent pump, follow the same steps to measure the rinse aid pump. That completes the full pump flow measurement process. We return to the main interface. The third step after installing the machine is to enter the content in the third data option of the main interface, which are the barrel capacity and the price per barrel. Barrel capacity, as the name suggests, is how many liters per barrel of your chemicals, and the price per barrel is how much you paid per barrel. After entering these two items, the first and second data items will rely on them to calculate the correct costs and other data for you. After setting the clock, flow, and barrel costs, the data functions of our dispenser can be used normally. Then, let me introduce each data interface of the main interface. First, we can switch between three options using the top left key. Let me start with the first option. Press the Set key to enter. This interface has no modifiable content. It displays daily chemical consumption and remaining amounts and automatically calculates the cost price. First, the left column is the data for the detergent pump, and the right column is the data for the rinse aid pump. Then the two above, today's S and today's L, indicate how many seconds the pumps ran today and how many liters of chemicals were consumed. Below that, the daily average barrel is the average number of barrels consumed per day from the start of last month to today. The last item, remaining barrels, is the current number of remaining barrels. Let me introduce the next page. This available days is automatically calculated by the system to indicate how many days the remaining chemicals can last. Then, this month's price shows how much was spent on the detergent pump and the rinse aid pump respectively. Below, the total price is how much was spent on both pumps this month. Then let me introduce the second interface. The second interface is our delivery record. Every time a chemical supplier delivers chemicals, enter the number of barrels delivered right away into the delivery option on this interface. Enter here, for example, if 90 barrels were delivered, enter 90 barrels here. Then if 10 barrels of rinse aid were delivered, enter 10 on the rinse aid side. We went back to the main interface, once again returned to the second data interface. The data here will be updated. Then this remaining barrels is what we use for calibration. Because there might be some variation in the actual capacity of each barrel, over time this discrepancy could accumulate to a difference of 1 or 2 barrels. At this time, you need to re-enter the current number of remaining barrels in this remaining barrels option. This makes other data calculations relatively much more accurate. Press the bottom right key to enter the second page. First, there's this before and after MLS. This after MLS is an average value based on the number of seconds run and the volume used from the first data option. Then when you calibrate the remaining barrels, a new MLS will be updated. At this time, the previous after MLS will jump to before MLS, and the newly calculated data will fill the after MLS. Then there's this alarm reminder that we can set. When the remaining chemicals can only last for a certain number of days, an alarm reminder is set. For example, here I set 90 days. When the remaining chemicals are only enough for 90 days of use, he will alarm for a few seconds. And these few seconds are set in this alarm time setting below. All right. That concludes the introduction of the data aspects of the dishwasher dispenser.
Splanny.